This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio. That's 98.7 FM New York City. That's 710 ESPN LA. And, of course, nationwide over the airwaves of ESPN Radio. Sirius XM style, Channel 80. Number to call up, as always, is 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. Got a jam-packed show coming your way today. Lots of stuff to get into in regards to LeBron and Kyrie, of course. We saw Aaron Judge smack a 457 shot against the New York Mets. We saw the Dodgers in a comeback victory. Yasiel Puig saves the day. Lots of stuff to get into without question. Looking forward to doing just that. Nick Saban making news. Urban Meyer making news. All of those things are things that we absolutely have to touch on. And at some point in time during this day, we will have a discussion, a very frank discussion, about whether or not you'd like to see more white individuals, specifically white players, get involved socially from an activist perspective in support of a guy like Colin Kaepernick and beyond. Lots of stuff to get into today right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show, 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. But there's something else that's on my mind that I want to get into. And the reason why I want to get into this because obviously folks are making news for all the wrong reasons as it pertains to the National Football League and the National Football League Players Association. They're getting into it big time in regards to each other's respective positions on how this Ezekiel Elliott scenario is being handled. I don't have the direct article in front of me, but I really, really don't need it. The NFL launched a serious big-time shot at the National Football League's Players Association, who are essentially representing Ezekiel Elliott at this point in time. Remember, his appeal to the 6-game suspension handed down by Roger Goodell gets heard by Hollywood Henderson, if I remember correctly, August 29th. He will hear the case of Ezekiel Elliott. He was also the same individual, Mr. Henderson, we're talking about here, that heard Greg Hardy's case along with others in the past that reduced Greg Hardy's suspension from 10 games to 4 games. A couple of years back. He will hear Ezekiel Elliott's case on August 29th, and they will go from there. And obviously the Players Association in representing Ezekiel Elliott is making the case that, you know what, there are some questionable tactics that have been exercised by the alleged victim. The NFL decides to launch its own salvo by essentially calling the NFL Players Association disgraceful because they're villainizing the victim. And obviously you're going to have a lot of women out there that feel the same way. You're going to have people that say they don't want to hear anything about Ezekiel Elliott. July 17th, July 19th, July 21st of last year, 5 different instances took place where marks and bruises on the neck, arms, shoulders, etc. of the alleged victim actually happened. And they don't want to hear anybody giving Ezekiel Elliott a break. All of those positions are fair, as far as I'm concerned. Do I think he's guilty based on the preponderance of evidence that I witnessed, that I saw, that I read from the NFL's report? Absolutely. He seems guilty of sin. The NFL clearly made a case to buffer and augment their own argument that indeed it's more probable than not that he committed acts of domestic violence. And assuming that stuff is true, ain't nobody want to hear a damn word of support for Ezekiel Elliott. Shut the hell up, serve your 6 games, and be done with it. Except the Players Association as a union is saying it's not that simple. Yahoo Sports also, reported some things that, dare we say, bring the alleged victim's agenda into question. Now, before anybody gets in an uproar, let's be clear. regardless of what her agenda may have been, whether it be to extort money or, as she was quoted as saying, ruin his career, what is undeniable, it appears, is that domestic violence took place. And here's the thing. If indeed you are Ezekiel Elliott and you've committed acts of domestic violence, her agenda is irrelevant. And for those out there that are willing to come to the defense of Ezekiel Elliott, let me say this. By this time, you were already drafted by the Dallas Cowboys. You were already a member of the Dallas Cowboys. So if that's the case, why is it that you didn't reach out for their assistance? Why didn't you reach out for the assistance of the NFL? Because you know these are the kind of things that they make sure rookies know and are aware of, right? We are here to help. Call us, tell us, inform us of what your predicament may be. We want to get involved because we don't want you to put yourself in a position where you can impugn or sully the integrity of the National Football League, the Shield. So there's no excuse for Ezekiel Elliott. It appears. Players Association is saying, essentially, tacitly or otherwise, we beg to differ. And so as a result, it comes down to the NFL Players Association against the NFL button heads yet again, which is where my nerves get raked. And I'm going to tell you why. And it has absolutely nothing to do with Ezekiel Elliott. It has everything to do with the relationship that exists between Roger Goodell and NFL Players Association Executive Director DeMaurice Smith. See, ladies and gentlemen, in my mind, I blame DeMaurice Smith a lot of times for this. Let me explain to you why. DeMaurice Smith is a fighter. DeMaurice Smith is a highly intelligent and accomplished individual who I profoundly respect. But if there is one thing that I've never liked about him, and I will admit wholeheartedly that it's more of an assumption than actual fact to support it, just in terms of perspective. Here's what I mean. I believe there is a difference between labor negotiations and labor relations. As a person that has studied and has covered collective bargaining negotiations for the last 18 years, 19 years, I firmly believe that. You, across the negotiating table from Roger Goodell, is entirely different than labor relations. Labor negotiations is you sitting across that table. Labor relations is DeMaurice Smith cultivating relationships with the power brokers in the National Football League. That would mean Roger Goodell and the owners he works for, cultivating those relationships to facilitate you doing things that don't involve the courts. And it seems to me that when it comes to legalese, legal issues, and lawyers, on far too many occasions as it pertains to the Players Association, too many lawyers are involved. To me, that means DeMaurice Smith ain't doing his job in that regard. Doesn't mean he's not worthy of the 3-year extension I believe he just received. Doesn't mean he's not worthy of his salary. Doesn't mean that overall he's not a good man who works hard, who cares about the players, and is doing the best job that he can do and probably does a good job. I'm talking about specifically as it pertains to the issues of cultivating a relationship with Roger Goodell where you can spend less of the players' money on lawyers. I think DeMaurice Smith comes up flagrantly short. And Roger Goodell, too. I think specifically when it comes to one another, each other, I think both of them act like damn children. Every time you turn around, they button heads with one another. I believe if they did their jobs as it pertains to labor relations and cultivating relationships with one another, I think Roger Goodell would be spending less of the owner's money. DeMaurice Smith would be spending less than the players' money. and more things would make sense and be handled appropriately so. And in that regard, I blame DeMaurice Smith because Roger Goodell does have the power. A power that DeMaurice Smith and the Players Association, albeit begrudgingly, still conceded to him. They gave it to him. They gave him autonomy. They gave him the right to arbitrarily come down with decisions, heavy-handed, I might add, and then turn around and not only be judge, jury, and executioner, but also the damn appellate judge. They gave Roger Goodell that right. So every time I see DeMaurice Smith and a Players Association fighting with the league, the first thing that comes to my mind is, what the hell you give Roger Goodell the power for? What'd you give it to him for? Still doesn't absolve Ezekiel Elliott, though. Still doesn't absolve him. Man, does this brother have problems. But regardless of those problems, I'm still not in support of him continuing to fight this. I'll explain why in a minute. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
Okay, keep your eyes closed.
Okay.
I want to show you my first ever painting.
All right.
Okay. Open your eyes.
Oh, that's a lot of colors and shapes.
So be honest. What do you think?
Well, I like how if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Here, why don't I hold your paintbrush while you call them?
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Let me be very, very clear. Like my man Max Kellerman on First Take with Molly Curran and yours truly every weekday morning on ESPN. Let me be very, very clear about what I'm about to say. I agree with Max. For the most part, if you're innocent, you fight. You know, if you're going to sit up there and, you know, you didn't do something and somebody accuses you of something, you don't go for that. But ladies and gentlemen, there comes a point in time in life where you weigh your options. And I'll share a little story with you. My producers know this about me. And the individuals, and I mentioned this on First Take yesterday, the individuals I'm about to talk about are, they are gone. They're dead. God rest their souls and bless their souls. They're no longer here, but it's still funny in this respect. Every time I need a laugh, I ask my producers to replay the interview of the late, great Ed Bradley of 60 Minutes talking to Michael Jackson. He's interviewing Michael Jackson, who's been accused of child molestation and all of this other stuff, okay? And Ed Bradley sits up there and says to him, you hear the clock ticking, tick, 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 like 60 minutes. And then he says, as we sit here today, do you still think it's okay for a 45-year-old man to be sleeping in the bed with little boys? And Michael Jackson says, of course. Not if you're a predator. Not if you're a murderer. Not if you're Jack the Ripper, which I am not. I swear to you, ladies and gentlemen, when I saw that interview for the first time, I'll be the first. I was eating a bowl of Crunch Berries on a Sunday night while watching 60 Minutes, and I swear to you, I almost choked to death. I was laughing so hard that the Crunch Berry got stuck in my throat. I was laughing so hard, I almost choked to death. That's how funny it was to me. And he said, of course, you know. And I'm just, and here's the thing. I bring up that story, ladies and gentlemen, because guess what that has to do with Ezekiel Elliott? Just like when the late, great Johnny Cochran, God bless his soul, just like when a late, great Johnny Cochran was representing Michael Jackson. Case got settled for about $25 million. Why settle? You innocent. Why settle? You know why? Because even if Michael Jackson was innocent, how does it help you to have your name plastered all over the media every day for an ongoing case that you haven't dropped that involves the words child molestation. How does that help you? How does that help you? That's what I'm saying about Ezekiel Elliott. No matter how much he fights this, and I got to admit to you, based on what I read, he seems guilty as hell. I ain't going to lie to you. If the NFL was trying to make the case, it's more probable than not that he did it. Damn, they did it. They did it. Now, Yahoo Sports, along with the NFL Players Association, have come out with other things that leaves the gender and the behavior of the alleged victim in the question, but nothing I've seen absolves Ezekiel Elliott. And if you're going to fight this, and there's no way, because you got to remember, he can't prove his innocence. He was never arrested. Prosecutor dropped the case because it was inconsistent evidence, which means that the only thing that could exonerate Ezekiel Elliott is if the NFL were to say, our information was wrong. We fabricated it, or we're misinformed, we didn't report it correctly, and blah, blah, blah. That's the only way. That's the only way. Other than that, people have already made their decision about Ezekiel Elliott. There's nothing he can do. There's no way around it. They're going to believe what they want to believe. They're going to believe he's committed domestic violence. So why not just drop it and let it go away? 866-729-ESPN. That is the number to call up. Let's go to Dominique. You're live with Stephen A. What's going on?
How you doing, Stephen A?
I'm all right. Go ahead, man.
All right. About the Zeke thing, I'm iffy because there are some affidavits that prove he didn't hit her, and on one incident, he wasn't even there. What's your take?
My take is until I see something that definitively contradicts what the NFL reported, it doesn't matter. Because if Ezekiel Elliott and his representation doesn't present that level of factual information to the National Football League, it doesn't matter. They're going to stick by their report. And what's in that report is what we're all going to believe.
In the report, what thing?
I couldn't hear you, sir. You only came in the last second. What did you say?
Sorry. I'm saying if those affidavits are in the report and the NFL knew about it, doesn't that make them look bad?
That makes them look very, very bad that they didn't add that to their report. I totally agree. But they're the ones that are making the decision. They're judge, jury, and executioner in all of this, plus they're the appellate court.
Yeah, that's true. The CBA does factor in.
That's right. So it doesn't. There's no way around it, Dominique. There's no way around it. Appreciate the call, man. 866-729-ESPN. More of your calls in a minute. It's the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it.
That's not, even though that was the first one, that beat right there, first time I had ever heard that beat was when Eminem was going up against that kid the first round in the finale of 8 Mile, and he smoked him, you know, and walked my white behind back across 8 Mile. That's how he ended that one. But the middle battle was the one against that guy that he said, look, Snoop Dogg has got himself a boob job. When Eminem said it about that kid actually gave him the best battle. That was kind of fly. It was a good movie. Eminem did a hell of a job with that. No doubt about it. Back to the phones we go. 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. My brother, Mike in Denver. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, man? Talk to me.
How you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. How are you and the family? Go ahead, bro.
We doing fine. The family's fine. Fatty told me to tell you hello.
All right,
man.
bro.
I just was want to talk about Ezekiel Elliott. This thing just going overboard, man. They coming up with evidence now, like the first caller just said. He wasn't there. If that ain't ridiculous, because ain't nobody gonna let somebody swear their name like that and they wasn't even there.
That's right.
And that got to be the craziest thing Roger Goodell could do is fumble the ball like that and come to find out the man wasn't there. So we know that ain't true. He was there. So man, the man should just go ahead and take his medicine like a man and move on. You ain't got no business putting yourself in that situation anyway.
That's right. That's what it comes down to. But I think people are pointing to this in fairness to everybody. Here's what the deal is right here. And by the way, Mr. Harold Henderson, that's not Hollywood Henderson. I was mistaken by saying that earlier today, and I said it on TV as well, and I didn't mean to. Harold Henderson, who's going to hear this case, who heard Greg Hardy's case and others, that is not Hollywood Henderson. So that was my mistake. I apologize. I don't know why I was thinking about Hollywood Henderson because I just saw him for the first time a few weeks ago at Fred Whitfield's golf outing in Charlotte, North Carolina. But back to this story involving Ezekiel Elliott. On Yahoo Sports today, right, the article is written by Charles Robinson. It's NFL columnist, right? He says, this is the first graph, Mike. The woman who accused Dallas Cowboys star Ezekiel Elliott of domestic violence admitted to NFL investigators having a text exchange in which she discussed leveraging sex videos featuring her and Elliott for money from the player, according to documents obtained by Yahoo Sports. The exchange is contained in a 160-page report prepared by NFL investigators and the allegations that Elliott committed multiple acts of violence against ex-girlfriend Tiffany Thompson. Within that report, investigators noted a September 16th text message exchange between Thompson and a friend in which Thompson raised the idea of selling sex videos of herself and Elliott. During the conversation, Thompson's friend suggested we could blackmail him with that, to which Thompson responded, "I want to, bro." The NFL's report also stated that Thompson admitted registering an email address titled Ezekiel Elliott Sex Vids in August of 2016. So here's the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen. Clearly, she was a woman that, let me take that back, because nothing's clear. It appears, based on the reports, she was willing to extort money from him. He was having sex with her. It was consensual. According to, but here's where it gets tricky, y'all. All of this was in the NFL's report. Wanting to sell a video for sex. I'm sorry, it's wanting to sell a video of them having sex for money. If you're trying to get it from Elliott, you're extorting him. I think that's what it's called. Then you also got to take into account she's on the record talking about how she was going to ruin his career. Ladies and gentlemen, that doesn't mean he didn't commit domestic violence. See what I'm saying, Mike?
Exactly.
It doesn't mean it. Now he could make if he wants to try and make the case, he could try to make the argument that she provoked him. Ain't no damn excuse to hit her. Can't do that. Right. But the Players Association and him are clearly going in that direction. They're going in the direction that look at how crazy she was. But they're not realizing that that's motive. You see what I'm saying? That's motive. That's motive. And as a result, the NFL took all of that into consideration, which justifies the 6-game suspension.
And you're exactly right. It goes to this extent right here. You hit me in my mouth, okay? Hey, whatever I do after that doesn't matter if I don't, do nothing to you physically. Whatever I say or whatever I try to do, that don't exclude that you physically abuse me.
Well, not just that. And here's the other thing, Mike, that we all have to pay attention to. And to me, this is the most indictable evidence against Ezekiel Elliott. This ain't no one incident. There's 5 different incidences over 3 separate days. July 17th, 19th, and 21st of 2016. If this girl was acting that crazy and coming at you like that, how did she get in your presence 5 different times?
He liked it. You know what it is.
Did you say he liked it?
You already, Stephen, you already know, man.
I'm just saying, man. You don't have a case. You don't have a case. Look, man, Ezekiel Elliott, drop it, man. Drop it. You ain't got no case to stand on. I can't see it. I just can't see it. I appreciate you, bro. Thank you so much.
All right, man. I love you.
Listen, here's the deal, y'all. July 17th, 19th, and 21st, there were 5 different incidences involving this girl and Ezekiel Elliott over those 3 days. How the hell you around her 5 different times? 5 different times while you're around this girl. I don't see how Ezekiel Elliott has a leg to stand on. I really, really don't. Jaron, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Hey, appreciate it, Stephen A. I just got a couple two cents as a former licensed NFLPA contract advisor, so an agent and an attorney out of Phoenix. I think that the main thing to remember here is burden of proof, right? Like everybody keeps saying, is he guilty? Is he innocent? The issue isn't whether he's guilty or innocent. It's whether he is liable or not liable. It is preponderance of the evidence, not reasonable doubt. So it is on a scale, which one is 51%? Which one is more probable than not? Did he do an act? Did he not do an act? I mean, it's just like O.J. Simpson. Everybody says in 96 that he was found not guilty at trial criminally, but then he was found liable in civil court because the burden of proof is different. Now,
okay, I got
your former caller is talking about affidavits. Does this prove this? Does this prove that? Is it conclusive? What that is weight of the evidence, right? What they balance on that 51%.
Listen, for my listeners' purpose, don't get too technical, all right? Just go ahead and get to your point.
Right, no, but what I'm saying is you look at that scale and you say there's 5 different instances. It's more probable on the totality of the circumstance that he did this. And, you know, you think of where the NFL is at what the rules are, and then the burden to disprove that on appeal, it's way too high. You're right. They gave Roger Goodell way too much power.
Well, that's the whole point. That's the whole point, Jaron. You're getting a bit too technical with all of this. Here's the bottom line. The report that was issued was by the very league that suspended you, and the appellate court is by the league that that suspended you. You ain't getting around it. You're just not getting around it. It's just that simple to me. I don't see how you get around it.
That's the exact point. You set the rules of the game before you go into the game, and then you're going to complain about the rules after they're already set.
Can't see it.
It's complaining about the rules of Monopoly after you buy the game. It's just you're setting yourself up for failure.
Appreciate the call, man. Let's go to James. You're live with Stephen A. What's going on, James? Good afternoon. Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, and you?
Go ahead, buddy.
Okay, if I'm not mistaken, did you say that you had a problem with Colin Kaepernick not voting and his stand and what he took?
No, just not voting. Had no problem with his stance.
Okay, now my question to you is, do you know how the Electoral College works?
Yes, I do. Okay,
so then you realize that it's a number that you have to reach.
Doesn't matter to me. Doesn't matter to me. That doesn't matter to me. What I'm talking about is in terms of your ancestors and others and the sacrifices that were made for you to have the right to vote. I believe that everyone should exercise their right to vote whenever they can. And if you choose not to, you choose not to. But to announce to the world after taking the position that you took that you were not going to vote, that was my issue with Colin Kaepernick. It was even more of an issue with me than him not voting. It was announcing to the world that you didn't vote because you're taking the position as if you're trying to encourage others to follow you. And I don't think that's the way to go in the United States of America. That's just my personal belief.
Okay, I understand that, but I look at it like this, too. If you have to reach a certain number, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is it, 270 or 271, if I'm not mistaken?
271.
271, right?
Yes, sir.
So that means that the Electoral College, with the way that it's set up, if once you reach that number, you're already president, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so then in theory, right, your vote does not matter.
That's ignorant. That with all due respect, that's an ignorant position to take. And the reason why that's an ignorant position to take is that usually by the time you're voting, okay, you don't know whether or not who's reached that number, how close or how far away from that number, et cetera, et cetera. That's entirely and totally irrelevant to your point at hand. If you have a problem with him voting, or you don't have a problem with him not voting, that's one thing. But to get into a technical discussion about, being far away from that number or not having an impact on that number is utterly ridiculous. We're American citizens. We're African Americans. We have a history of having to battle for the right to vote, just like women had to battle for the right to vote. And it's a principled position that's devoid of numbers. That's pretty much even devoid of impact per se, because depending on which election you're talking about, your impact ebbs and flows. What's undeniable and what's indisputable is that lives were sacrificed for the right to vote. And considering that reality, you don't shove it aside while in the same breath talking about wanting to promote change. That's just ignorant, and I'm not entertaining this conversation any longer. 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. More to Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio in a minute.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, coming back at you, as I always do. Here with you for the next hour and change. Let's get back to the phones before I get into some more NFL news circulating and percolating. On Adam Schefter's got a report out right now. We'll be talking about that and then some, starting hour number 2 of this show. But for now, let's get back to the phones. By the way, Aaron Judge, monster. Keeps striking out every damn day, though. I think it's 37 consecutive games. But that's all right. Keep smacking those home runs. We can forget those strikeouts. It's no big deal to us. Matter of fact, let's go to Robert in Cali. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Rob? How are you, man?
Hey, Stephen, how you doing? I ain't talked to you in a while.
What's going on, man?
But I just wanted to let you know, I've been hearing you talk about them Yankees. Trust me, they ain't going to the World Series.
Man, don't you call up here with this blasphemy. Don't you call up here with this blasphemy, Robert. I mean, listen,
hey.
See, it's people like you that get on my nerves. Where you living at now? You living in L.A., ain't you?
No, I've been since day. I'm going to get my truck and go home.
All I'm trying to say to you is this. I know the Dodgers, everybody chilling, Dodgers, what is it, 50 games, 51 games, over 500. Well, so what they going to do? Dodgers better win this year. You're on pace to win 116 games. That's time to Mariners. That's the Clips in the Mariners. I think it's time to Mariners from 2001. They ain't win no damn World Series. Let me tell you something right now. You got all of these moments. That's fine. But I'm telling you this right now. The Dodgers, with Bryce Harper going down, with the Cubs coming up, they're still in first place, but they're not what they were last year. And with the Dodgers running roughshod over Major League Baseball the way that they do, they had damn well better win the World Series this year. The pressure's on the Dodgers. And getting Kershaw back? Please. In the case of the New York Yankees, look, Robert. Mm-hmm. I understand there's some troubles. They have won 3 straight, though. But I understand some troubles. I got it. But they still got the crew with Judge and Sanchez and the crew. I'm not worried about them too much. Listen, Boston's pulling away, but they're only 4.5 games in front. They can still get caught. I'm not disagreeing. I'm not losing faith. Plus, the Yankees will be the wild card team anyway. I am not going to lose faith in my New York Yankees, Robert. I will not do it.
I hear you, but I ain't saying the Dodgers going either. I'm thinking the Cubs are going to go back, and they're going to play the Astros.
I will tell you this. Before the season began, I actually did say that the Cubs would go to the World Series this year. I actually thought it was going to be the Cubs. I wasn't sure about anything else. I didn't think the Indians would be a rematch. I thought it initially, but then I watched very early on in the season. I wasn't sold on the Indians. But I think, hey, listen, I can't rule out the Cubs. Madden's a hell of a manager, A. And B, look, Chris Bryant and those boys can ball, and they're champions now, and the curse has been alleviated. So there's no pressure on them. And specifically with the Dodgers playing the way that the Dodgers have been playing, how you going to win all of this and then not have pressure in the postseason? Pressure breaks pipes, bro. I don't know if the Dodgers are ready for this. I really don't.
That's what I was saying.
Let me go, man. I appreciate the call, buddy. Thank you so much. Let's go to Ron in L.A. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, man.
Hey, what's going on, Stephen A?
How you doing?
I appreciate you and everything you're doing. But let me get straight to the point.
Yep.
I kind of feel you on your stance regarding he should have voted, and I'm talking about Kaepernick.
Yes, sir.
However, when we going to talk about the issue? When we going to get off of the fact about him taking a knee or him not standing, let's talk about the issue. Everybody's talking about patriotism. That's basically what this is all about. Let's just get to the issue.
Well, let's talk about the issue for a second, okay? We're talking about prejudice, racism, brutality on the part of police officers. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
When have we not talked about that?
Yeah, well,
Hold on, wait a second. Time out. Listen, Ron, be fair. It's a sports show. The fact that we even broach it says something. Now, there's a bevy of news programs and beyond that talk about all of that stuff, and you know that. Yep. And on this show, we've certainly talked about it, even though it's a sports show. So you can't complain about that. Come on, bro.
Well, I'm not complaining.
I'm just saying. No, we all brothers, man. No, I'm not offended. I'm just saying, think about this. When you tuning into a sports show, right?
Yeah.
All of these issues actually get in the way. Let's call it what it is. Because as much as these issues, as important as these issues are, and as much as we need to talk about it, you and I know good and damn well we'd rather be talking about the Cowboys, the Steelers, the Jets, Giants, the Rams, and the Patriots and everything else. Come on now.
Well, when you don't talk about my Lions enough,
Let me ask you this question. Are you interested in talking about your Lions?
Yeah, that's right.
You know you're not. You know, when y'all going to win a damn playoff game? Come on.
It's Stafford, man. It's Stafford.
That's all. Listen, whoa. I'm not sure about that. Had a good year last year.
I mean, hey.
Come on now.
The athlete in me says Stafford should have played. Stafford should have played because he's an athlete. But the fan in me says he should have sat out. True enough.
Right. What I'm trying to say, and my bigger point is this, because we got to get ready to go in 10 seconds. All I'm trying to say to you is that those are the issues we want to talk about. We actually lucky we got an opportunity to slide these other issues in. You see what I'm saying? That's all I'm trying to say. There's nothing to complain about. It's a sports show. We'll touch on other things. We've got to talk sports now. You know that, Ron. Got to bounce. Appreciate the call, though, bro. Anytime. Hour number 2 up next. NFL, Stephen A., ESPN Radio.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on Sirius XM Channel 80 and the ESPN app. This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Hour number 2 of the Stephen A. Smith Show here with you for the next hour or so over the airways of ESPN Radio. Sirius XM Channel 80. Number to call up as always is 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. Couple of things to point out as we sit here today. Number one, Adam Schefter's reporting Le'Veon Bell is expected back with the Pittsburgh Steelers before the season opener. As long as he's back before the season begins, who cares? I don't care that a running back decided to miss training camp. I really, really don't. He deserves his money. I hope he gets it. He's big time, incredibly gifted, arguably the best in the game. He deserves his money, but at the same time, I don't give a damn that he's not playing in preseason games. I don't think there should be preseason games, personally. Not unless you're going to let people watch for free. I despise the fact that the NFL charges for preseason games. We don't know 99% of the players that are playing, especially if they ain't the starters or any of the starters. So Le'Veon Bell getting back before the season opener is good. Aaron Donald for the Los Angeles Rams, however, may end up sitting out the entire 2017 season. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to say if he decides to do this, I wholeheartedly support his decision. He is the best player on the Los Angeles Rams. Period. He's impactful. Period. And when you consider the contracts that everybody from the Fletcher Cox to the Von Millers to the J.J. Watts and others have signed, the fact that this kid with youth on his side, along with skill, is having hardball played with him by the Los Angeles Rams of all people. You gotta be kidding me. The nerve of this franchise to sit up there and act like they got some damn leverage. You stink. And you got the nerve to play hardball with your best player? If I'm Aaron Donald, you know what? I'm sitting out for the year. I'm willing to lose the money. So why should I sacrifice myself, my body, to potential injuries for this moribund franchise when I can save a year of wear and tear on my body until I get my damn money? It's a simple situation to me. If he can afford to do it, Aaron Donald, do it. They don't deserve you any damn way. I mean, you got to be kidding me. Who the hell are the Los Angeles Rams think they are? First of all, you're lucky you're being called the Los Angeles Rams, because in a great city like Los Angeles, the city of angels, Tinseltown, Hollywood, what the hell have you done to deserve to be associated with Los Angeles? I mean, really? Has anybody taken the time to ask themselves that question? I mean, really, seriously? You're the Los Angeles Rams. What have you done? What have you done? Do you realize how awful this team has been? They haven't made the playoffs since 2004. Ladies and gentlemen, that's 13 years, man. 13 years. Did y'all know I had an afro 13 years ago? Hairline was about 3 feet forward. I had cheap clothes, couldn't afford one of my suits, let alone several. I had just gotten rid of my 85 Mercury Topaz. I mean, that's how long ago it was. I mean, you got to be kidding me. These dudes got the nerve to sit up there and play hardball when an elite player like Aaron Donald? And did I get into the ineptitude of Mr. Jeff Fisher? 7-8, 7-1, 7-9, 6-10, 7-9, 4-12. And ladies and gentlemen, this man was a coach in the National Football League for 22 years. 16 years he missed the playoffs. 16 years, 16 times. He missed the playoffs in 22 years and somehow kept getting contract extensions. It was so bad, ladies and gentlemen. Do you know that the Rams gave this man an extension and tried to hide it? They tried to hide it. They didn't even announce it. And then when it became public information, when we all found out about it, they damn near had to apologize before they finally came to their senses and fired him. Now, I'm not saying that Jeff Fisher doesn't deserve a check and he doesn't deserve a job in the NFL. He seems to be a good enough man. He's clearly knowledgeable about the game of football. There's contributions that he can make in the league office. But being a head coach in the NFL, hell no. Talk about having your opportunities. This man was a model of ineptitude. What happened? You gave him a contract extension and then got the audacity, the unmitigated gall to try and hide it practically. But you can sit there and stick out your chest and deny Aaron Donald what he deserves. I hope Aaron Donald does sit out the year. I really, really do. This team was 4-12 last year. They didn't do a damn thing anyway. Who cares? Who cares? Dead last offensively. Second worst passing attack. Second worst running attack in the entire NFL. Dead last in points and yards accumulated. I mean, just inept. But you holding out on Aaron Donald. Nerve. The absolute positive nerve of this team. They should be ashamed of themselves. They should be ashamed of themselves. You should be knocking on his door. When he opens the damn door, you should have a masseuse waiting for him, along with somebody to give him a massage and a pedicure. You should be on your knees sitting up there and saying, thank you for being willing to wear our uniform because you stink. And just in the interest of full disclosure, I am fully aware of the fact that this is the flagship station, 710 ESPN LA, flagship station for the Los Angeles Rams. I don't give a damn. When you deserve the credit, I'll give it to you. A lot of nice people work over there for the Rams. And I'm happy for them. But the product that has been put on the field, you lucky you allowed in the streets of L.A. You lucky you allowed to represent the city of Los Angeles. Let me just be clear. And you going to hold out on Aaron Donald of all people. Why don't you get in touch with a genie or somebody and rewind the damn clock and try to get a quarterback other than Jared Goff? Why don't you take Carson Wentz? Why don't you try to do that? The nerve. By the way, how many games the Rams going to win this year, y'all? It's a rhetorical question because none of y'all don't have to answer. Ain't a damn one of y'all going to say more than 5 games. You're in the NFC West. Got Arizona in there. You got Seattle up in there. You might beat San Francisco. You'll give Seattle and Arizona tough games. But what you really going to do? What you really going to do? You got Sammy Watkins. You got to hope he's healthy. You gave away a corner. You got Tavon Austin just blowing his career away because you can't find somebody to throw him the damn football. What else you got? You going to appreciate Gurley? You going to utilize him effectively? 866-729-ESPN. Go to break so I can calm down.
Daddy, where do babies come from?
Honey?
Mommy went to the store.
Oh, well, you see, there's a mommy and a daddy, right?
Right.
And see, when they call Geico, they could save a bunch of money on car insurance.
Oh, really? And that makes them happy?
Yes, that makes them very happy.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we could have this talk, sunshine.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
A couple of things. Let me finish my point on the Rams before I get back to some other items. Aaron Donald is unquestionably one of the top 10 players in the game. Period. Big-time quickness, no shortage of effort, finishes at the quarterback. You got him. Even though Quinn seems to be trending in the wrong direction, hey, things could happen. Ogletree, he's got to improve on his tackling because he misses too many of them. But the problem with this team is offense. Look, Sean McVay is a good hire. I like the direction that the Rams are going in. Sean McVay is there now. They got Wade Phillips as their defensive coordinator. You know I ain't going to complain about that. Man's big time. As a defensive coordinator, not a head coach, but as a defensive coordinator, man's big time. Okay? But the defense with this team is not the problem. It's the offense. The one thing you've got going for you is the defense, and you're about to compromise that? We don't know whether or not Jared Goff can play. The man needs everything. Needs weight, needs confidence, needs footwork, needs eye control, needs to stop being so transparent in the pocket, needs a whole bunch of stuff. Gurley didn't have an outstanding year. Tavon Austin just looks like he's losing interest. The brother can play, but if I had questionable quarterbacks with Jeff Fisher as my coach, I'd have looked apathetic too. The one good thing you have going for you if you're this team, the Los Angeles Rams, is your defense. And the dude who's unquestionably the best on it is who you going to mess with. I have no patience for such stupidity. I just don't. 866-729-ESPN. It's 866-729-3776. Spent the first hour talking about a few things. Anthem protest. Ezekiel Elliott. We know what that time it is. Talking to NFLPA. Obviously, I just told you Le'Veon Bell's going to be back with the Steelers before the season begins. I told you about Aaron Donald. By the way, you got Vegas talking about the best bet to make it to the Super Bowl is the Raiders. Not that they got a better chance than the New England Patriots, but if you're literally betting, gambling on who's the better bet, who can make you the most money, it's on the Raiders. As far as I'm concerned, the offense is big time. Defensively, all they've got is Khalil Mack. I guess Bruce Irvin and those guys you can give credit to, but I got to see it when I believe it. Mack is the Mac daddy. Let's see what happens. And by the way, I started off this show talking to you about Michael Bennett and what he had to say. I mentioned it at the top of the show, but I'll get more into detail about it now. Michael Bennett for the Seattle Seahawks was on the 6 o'clock Sports Center yesterday with Michael Smith and Jamel Hill. And he pointed out how white players need to get more actively involved. And if they were to do it, would this be better? Of course it would be better. If they were to get involved in more protesting and addressing the concerns that have permeated our communities and this country at this particular moment in time. White nationalist group showing up in Charlottesville last weekend. A woman getting killed because one of the neo-Nazis runs her over with a car along with 19 other people, ramming his car into a crowd. We just read about it today in Barcelona where Many more people have been injured, and I think 10 has been killed. I mean, terrorism is alive and well, but the point is that how do you alleviate it? How do you stop it? Particularly in this country, would it help if whites got more involved? Yeah. Nobody can dispute that. But let's not act like they have an obligation to get involved, particularly as it pertains to the national anthem issue involving Colin Kaepernick. A, they may not believe in that at all. B, they might compromise their own money. Because we live in a world where it ain't just blacks being stifled and Latinos being stifled. There's a whole bunch of white folks out there struggling too. So if we want to be specific about what Michael Bennett had to say and really accentuate his point, it's the stars that need to step up. If Tom Brady and Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers and Big Ben Roethlisberger and others stood up and said, hey, we need to contribute to the world being a better place. We need to do our part. If they imitated LeBron James, D. Wade, Carmelo Anthony, and Chris Paul at the ESPYs from last year, what kind of impact would that have on our society? If we're being honest, we don't know, but we guess it would help things significantly. But not just because you're white. It has to be those white athletes that really, really count, like the names I mentioned. That's my thought. What about you? Back to the phones we go. Charlie, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
How you doing, Stephen A?
I'm all right. Talk to me, man.
It's been a while since the last time we spoke. Your mom was fighting and doing pretty good, and haven't spoken to you since then. So my prayers to you and your family.
Thank you so much, Charlie. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. There's some things that I'd like about 60 seconds to explain some things,
Go
which
ahead.
will lead to my question that has everything to do with my question.
Go ahead, sir.
So some things I'm embarrassed about, some things I'm ashamed of. Born and raised in Virginia. My family tree goes as far back as Robert E. Lee, William Henry Harrison, Benjamin Harrison. I have family that has been involved with the Klan that I'm ashamed of and embarrassed about. I met my wife when I was 9 years old. She's a black woman. We've been together, still together, almost 30 years. And we had a conversation, got kind of heated, talking about the protests and the hate that's going on. And she brought up a question that I really didn't have an answer for, because I just, the question was, why are the players protesting when, I understand why they are, and I was trying to explain to her why they are, but her question was, what can they do, because you can't fix hate. And that was my question to you. How can, with the protesting that's going on, and how can you can't fix hate?
Well, let me say this to you. Let me say this to you. Our former President Barack Obama alluded to this when he was quoting someone a few days ago, and he was talking about how hate is taught, and if hate could be taught, so can love. That's one way to answer that question, even though it's albeit a bit simplistic. But let me take it a step further. A lot of times when these things are taught, it's because somehow, some way, people have been convinced that their way of life has been endangered, that somehow, some way, allowing others to live their lives compromise what they want. And as a result, they resent and thereby hate you for it. Now, clearly, that's an ill-informed position. It's an ill-informed perspective to have. But it's what they've been taught. So to me, one of the ways to alleviate it, to answer your question directly, Charlie, is to go about the business of doing everything that we can to make sure that those things are not taught. and more importantly, making it incredibly inconvenient for those who do learn such things to live in the world amongst the rest of us. That's why it was so important when people were talking about how the President of the United States needed to condemn the actions and the remarks of the white nationalist group on Saturday. He tried to draw a moral equivalent between the protesters. Well, one group of protesters were fending off being oppressed, while the other group of protesters were essentially fighting for the right to be oppressors. And that's what we have to understand. That's why there's no moral equivalence. Do you understand that, Charlie?
Yes, sir. I really appreciate your time. I try to do the best I can as far as I don't teach my kids hate, and I'm glad that I didn't suck in the hate that my family had to.
Well, just remember something, Charlie. It's important. You're doing something now. Just by calling up and expressing yourself and being truthful about your story and what your battles have been as it pertains to your family and beyond, it's a credit to you as a man. The bottom line is that you've taken a phenomenal step forward, more so than your other family members, because unlike a lot of people, you had the courage to do that. A lot of people don't have the courage to do that. They'll just go along to get along, and they'll adopt the mentality of those closest to them because they believe it's right, and they don't tend to think for themselves. You didn't do that because you're a God-fearing, decent human being who cares enough to think and delve deeper and think differently, and that's a credit to you. And by virtue of you doing that alone, so many of the listeners have right now listening to you give you a lot of credit. You've changed lives just by making this call, my man.
Well, Stephen A., I appreciate you. I mean, I'm gonna try to keep doing what I can.
All right, buddy.
Man, you have a good day.
You do the same, buddy. Always appreciate guys like that. Appreciate his honesty. Be thankful for that. Everybody doesn't have the courage or even the thoughtfulness to be as open and honest as he just was. I really appreciate that. 866-729-ESPN. More of your calls in a minute. This is Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it! One of the other things that get on my nerves, getting back to the Rams for a second, just thinking about them. Did y'all know the Rams stopped the league-high 29% of runs against them for no gain or loss? 29% of the time. No gain or a loss on running plays against them. But you don't want to take care of Aaron Donald. Meanwhile, offensively, you punted a league-high 52.4% of your offensive drives. Punt it. Can't do nothing offensively. Defense stopping everybody from running against them. But you want to be hardball, play hardball with Aaron Donald. Goodness. By the way, I said it yesterday. I'll say it again. Des Bryant. And I said this. I explained it this morning even better on First Take. I talked about Des Bryant and, people, particularly those within the African-American community, getting on him because he doesn't have much to say about the protests. He doesn't want to touch that stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, in 1947, when baseball was being integrated by Jackie Robinson, he was handpicked by Branch Rickey. It wasn't just because of his athletic ability, his baseball prowess, or anything like that. It was because of his temperament. Because Branch Rickey knew what level of venom and vitriol would be aimed in his direction. And he knew that it took a special kind of person to handle that onslaught of venom. And the Satchel Pages of the world and others, whoever was available at that particular time when Jackie Robinson was chosen, didn't necessarily have what Jackie Robinson had as a disciplined military man, as an individual that just knew how to carry himself in a very polished and pristine fashion in the face of no matter what adversity came his way. All of those things had to be taken into consideration. Branch Rickey knew what place Jackie Robinson would have to be in, and how he'd have to accept it, and how he'd have to have the temperament to achieve what he needed to achieve. Des Bryant has a checkered past. It isn't pristine. He's also not the most articulate. I'm not calling him dumb by any stretch of the imagination. Very smart guy. I know him. Well, I've spoken to him on several occasions, rather. I'm not questioning his intelligence, but everyone ain't the smoothest communicator in the world. They don't always say the right things the right way. Hell, I don't. And give credit to Des Bryant for knowing his lane and knowing his place and saying, you know what, this is not something I believe I would be good at. He understands what his limitations are and understands that certain fights are made for others to make. I can't knock Des Bryant for that. I just can't. 866-729-ESPN. Let's go to Oscar in L.A. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Oscar?
What's up, Stephen A. Smith?
I'm all right. Go ahead.
I just want to talk a little bit about the rants, man. I can't believe what they're doing. It's just, I mean, they're overpaying, you know, they overpaid to get Jared Goff. They overpaid Austin. They overpaid Robert Woods. They can't pay Aaron Donald. It's just, I don't get it. This is the guy that you want to buy his jersey. You want to, like, go out to the store and buy his jersey. And these guys are making it hard for fans in L.A. to jump and, you know, be a Rams fan. I don't get it. To me, it's insane. I just can't believe it, you know, knowing that they're making these moves and they're just, the front office is a mess. I really don't know what they're doing. And if somebody has answers, they better start, like, working something up because it's just, it's insane. It's insane. It's insane.
I tell you this much. I tell you this much too. Let me tell you something right now. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff to do in L.A. You know, you don't need to go to a football game. You got the Chargers and the Rams, 17 miles apart. Actually, about 12 miles apart. And by the way, they'll be playing about 12 miles apart. And by the way, September 17th, December 10th, and December 31st. Mark those dates down. Those are the 3 dates that both teams are playing in L.A. on the same day. The Rams and the Chargers. I got news for you. You better stay away from the 405. Don't go near there. Don't you do it. Appreciate the call, Oscar. Thanks a lot. Dominic, you're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, man?
What's up, Stephen A.? How's it going, brother?
I'm all right. Talk to me.
Good. I wanted to speak about the Des Bryant comments. You know, you really hit the nail on the head. Like you said, some people are better adept and better equipped to fight these battles. And I also think that his comments were pretty telling, just the fact that, you know, the quote-unquote freedom of speech aspect for the National Football League, how they really feel about that, how players really feel about that. Just him saying that I have a family to feed. And even him being the elite player that he is, he still has in the back of his mind, it seems like, you know, I could be out here looking for a job.
Your signal's bad, bro. I got you. I got your point. I appreciate it, but your signal's too bad. I can't let you continue. Thanks a lot for the call. Let's go to Brian in New Haven. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Brian?
Hey, Stephen A. Thanks for taking the call, man.
Go ahead, man.
Really want to give a lot of credit to the guy Charlie who called earlier. He made some really solid points about, you know, what it takes to stand up and do the right thing, even in the face of your family. And it kind of harkens back to why I originally called with your comment earlier about the NFLPA and the head of the PA and his relationship with the commissioner, with Goodell, because the bigger problem is his relationship and the NFLPA's relationship with each other. The secret to a strong union is a strong union of players, and in whether it's
I don't think the players
like
are weak. I don't think the players are weak. I think what happens is that they defer to their leadership to some degree, and the leadership usually gives the impression that the legal route is the way to go. And I think that's the problem in today's generation between the relationship with the players and the Players Association. The Players Association and the league office. I think this is about DeMaurice Smith and Roger Goodell.
I think you certainly have a point. I think there's something to be said, though, of a lack of engaged behavior on the part of the players, and that this, you can take it to Kaepernick, you can take it to the Ezekiel Elliott situation, when the players, and whether they're white, black, brown with purple polka dots, it doesn't really matter. When everyone stands up and realizes that there's an actual problem and what the reaction to that problem can be, you will certainly find, just like in the instance of Charlie, like you say, he affects the lives of everybody that listens to your show. You'll see an inevitable response, because the people who watch it, especially the youth, will say, listen, everybody's standing up next to each other. There's a problem. There's something that will actually be done by everybody standing next to each other.
I got you. I appreciate that point, Brian. Thank you so much, man. Thank you for the call. Keep them coming. 866-729-ESPN. We will close out the show with your calls in a minute. By the way, that car crash that rammed into the crowd in Barcelona, Spain, at least 13 people killed and 50 injured in Barcelona van attack, says government official. One person has already been arrested. This is according to CNN. But more is coming. We'll find out. Terrorist attack. That's what they're thinking it is. All right? Stephen A. Smith Show. Closing out the show with your calls in a minute.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Back to the phones we go before we get on out of here for the day. Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. Let's get to it. Let's go to James. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, James? How are you?
Hey, Stephen. I don't know if you can verify this or not, but rumor is that Aaron Donald turned down a 6-year, $120 million deal because he couldn't get an opt-out after the year 3.
I'll double-check that. I'll find out about that. If I don't have that information for you before the show, I'll double-check it tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, they said that it would have made him the highest-paid defensive player.
You know what? Here's the deal. If he wanted an opt-out, I'm sure he didn't ask for anything that any of the other guys asked for, and that's the key. And my point is that when you have a talent like this and you have stunk as long as the Rams have stunk, then you know what? You might have to capitulate significantly. That's my point. But if that is true, then obviously you got to rethink it to some degree. In terms of how hard I came down on the Rams. I came down on the Rams because really, if I'm being totally honest with you, James, I can't believe they allowed Jeff Fisher to stick around as long as he did. I'm really down on this organization because of how long they kept Jeff Fisher around. I'm telling you right now, if it wasn't for us going off about him, they'd still have him as their coach. They'd still have him as coach. I mean, it was so bad, I wondered whether he had pictures on somebody or something. I didn't understand it.
Who knows?
Yeah, how about that? Thank you, James. Appreciate the call. Darnell, you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, buddy.
Hey, Stephen A. I want to first thank you for introducing me to Joe Madison, the Black Eagle.
That's right.
But one thing about Colin Kaepernick, I agree with everything you're saying about him, and the big hang-up is about the flag. The most disrespectful flag to African Americans is the Confederate flag. Hank Williams Jr., who opens up every Monday Night Football, if you go to his Facebook page, he sells Confederate flags with his face all over it. So what's the difference? They have no respect for us as African Americans. What offends us? That flag, and they open up every football game with him singing, and then they're making a fuss about Colin.
Let me ask you a question. What were you doing in regards to the national anthem before Colin Kaepernick knelt?
I stand for it.
All right. What about what? And wouldn't you say that's the case with most folks, whether black or any other minority?
Yes.
So why do we treat the Colin Kaepernick kneeling for the national anthem as if this has been an ongoing protest that has spanned decades, when most of us never even thought about it until he took a knee? It's not like we're the Native Americans and we've been protesting certain derogatory names associated with our culture all of these years. That has not been the case for African Americans.
Correct.
So what I'm saying to you is go ahead.
But my thing is, like, so many people are offended by him not standing for the flag, and African Americans are offended. I drive trucks and I listen to you every day. Our company, the company that I drive trucks for, will not allow any of our drivers to fly that flag in their truck as long as they're driving for the company, just out of respect for the people that flag offends.
Got it.
And Hank Williams Jr. opens up football, and if you go to his Facebook page, that's all you see on his Facebook page.
Got you. Okay. I got it. Noteworthy. No question. Chuck in L.A., you're live with Stephen A. Chuck, good afternoon. How are you?
I have an idea. For every one of the Confederate statues that needs to come down, and they come down years ago, it was built.
Hey, Chuck, we can't hear you. Something's wrong with your signal. I'm very, very sorry. I couldn't hear you. Mark in Rochester, you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Hey, Stephen, thanks for taking my call. Lots of respect, man. I appreciate it.
No problem. Go ahead.
Real quick, I just wanted to say I think you make an awesome point when you said that the discrimination extends way beyond what we've just seen in the past few years, according to the protests. I mean, if you look even before Jackie Robinson, and just in baseball, Japanese Americans, Italian Americans, Irish Americans, the discrimination goes back way into our history as a country.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I do want to say about Colin Kaepernick, to give him his due, is that you see, the attention I think that's going to the African Americans is because we see the African Americans that are standing up for it and that are the ones that are protesting. I think that even today, just like you said, African Americans aren't the only ones that are getting the bad rap or that are getting stifled. But you see the African Americans are the only ones that are standing up. So I think it says a lot about what
African Americans have a longer history of being denigrated and a lot of other things that I'm not going to get into right now. But I appreciate the call. Thank you so much, Brett in El Segundo. You're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, Brett.
Hey, buddy. How you doing, Stephen A?
I'm doing all right. Thank you for calling. What's up?
Hey, I'm taking a little bit different. I got a little bit different about this whole thing. Like, I know you've been calling out for some of the athletes to get more involved and so forth. And I just think, I think it does more damage. For instance, so he uses the so-called president term. He loses me. And there's nothing he's going to be able to tell me that I'm going to go, okay, yeah, he's making a valid point. I mean, this guy, he's got a high school diploma and he plays basketball. So what is he going to tell me as a, middle-aged white guy that that it's going to be?
Can I ask you a question? Let me ask you a question, Brett, real quick. When LeBron James speak, do you listen? Do you care?
No, I don't. No, I don't really care because I watch basketball. I like the great player, great athlete. Although I'm a Kobe fan, but he's a great athlete and so on. But he's not going to have. Listen, if he's going to reach out to other people, that's great. But the problem here is that you need the white man to realize what's going on, and racism exists. And by not standing for the flag, the national anthem, or whatever, that's not going to solve it, man. People hate.
Let me be clear, Brett, because we're running out of time. What you're saying is that white athletes need to stand up and they need to speak out against what's wrong. Somebody kneeling for the national anthem or whatever, that's not going to create change. You hear what they're saying. You're not necessarily disagreeing with it, but what you're saying is that's not going to promote the change that they need. It's going to take involvement from white athletes. Yes or no? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
I'm running out of time. That's the only reason I'm cutting you off, Brett. Call back anytime, and I'm happy to have this discussion with you further. Thank you so much. We got to get on out of here for the day, but I will be back in 22 hours. The Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, signing off.